Okay, so module 2, we're going to be looking at chapter 3. This is our AutoCAD day. Now, in this chapter, as you can see, we're going to be using construction and editing tools. So, and I'll repeat this a couple times because it's going to be different from how we've been handling in our assignments. This unit in particular, and there might be some more going forward. Most often I've been having you, or I have been having you do screenshots, put them on a document, hand them in that way. And from that, I can see a lot and I can see how things are done. But in this unit particularly, we're going to be practicing editing tools. We're going to be practicing creating good construction. And those are two really important things to kind of have down. So I need to look at your files because I got to be able to zoom in on intersections or where things are to be sure that there's not overlaps or really close things, because I want to make sure that you've got good habits going starting right now. Okay. So for this module number 2, and I'll kind of figure out going forward which ones it's going to be appropriate. But for this one, we are going to be handing in our AutoCAD files. Okay. Not screenshots. Okay. So, so just so that you know, and again, I'm going to repeat that. So you want to open up your textbook to chapter 3, and we're going to be looking there for our demo first, or our tutorial first, and then we're going to be doing the homework out of the back. So let's, I'm going to go underneath my camera here. Let's start here by looking at the beginning of the chapter. Okay, so again, chapter 3, this is page 3-3 or section 3-1, and we're going to go forward a little bit here. And the chapter starts officially on 3-4. Okay. And it talks about at the beginning here, geometric construction. And we've done a little bit of this already, but this particular unit kind of exposes you to some more stuff. Okay. So we're going to be highlighting some commands before we get into doing the tutorial. And then the tutorial is going to mimic and give you some hints and tricks on how to do some of the homework. So, so geometric construction is where we are using kind of standard features like circles and lines, arcs, and we may not be using them in their pure form. We need to use parts of them and maybe trim away a portion, but use them to construct how an actual overall part needs to look. Okay, so we're going to start putting more and more of these things together. So some of the things we have to keep in mind are relationships as well. So do we have to make something perpendicular? Does it have to be parallel? Does it have to be a certain distance away? Is something in line with another element? And we are going to be also exercising and using our object snaps. Okay. Now, I understand and I totally relate to the urge that people have to jump to the homework. While I'm lecturing today during our chapter, I am going to be giving you these things that I'm going to be looking for on the files. So it's going to be how you construct things is how you're going to get graded. So I'm not going to say I'm going to be pickier, but I want to be sure that this foundation of good construction is in place. So it's really important that as we're going through this first part and going through the tutorial, really follow along so that you get kind of that basis. All right. Again, I know you're graded on the homework at any class, right? You're like, okay, let me see what the homework is assigned. I'm almost like, maybe I don't put the homework out until I'm done with the lecture. No, it's not nice. That's not nice. So, so in this particular chapter, I am going to be paying attention to those things. Now, as we start AutoCAD, I think the last time we were here, if you're on one of the school computers, you're going to notice that those standard settings probably didn't hold. So let's go back in and do some of these things so that we have what we need as we create our drawing. So I'm going to go back to my AutoCAD. Now mine are set up, but I'm going to kind of go through and make sure you have yours. So first and foremost, we're going to use this down arrow here, just to the left of share. And we're going to make sure that we show our menu bar, which is all the way down at the bottom. Okay, second from the bottom. And then what that creates is that second layer of these tabs. Okay, so make sure that we have that available. The other thing that you want to have available is over on the left-hand side. I have mine docked on my left-hand side, but if I pull it out, this is the Object Snaps toolbar. We're going to go up to Tools, which is one of those menus that we just pulled out. We're going to hover over Toolbars, and then we're going to click on or I guess we can hover over AutoCAD, and it's going to pull out this flyout. And we are going to go down to Object Snaps and make that checked, okay, so that we have it. And then you can dock it wherever you want it to go. I tend to like it over on the side here, okay? I'm gonna put it over on that side. There we go. I'm gonna X out of this, move this up a little bit. Then down below, we just wanna make sure that we have some of these items available. I think by default, and correct me if I'm wrong, your dynamic input is available. That's going to be where you have the ability to, like, on the fly put numbers in, and you've got the cursor by, or you've got the prompts by your cursor. So you're going to have grid, snap, and then dynamic input somewhere along your line down here. If you don't have it, how you add to the bottom here is there's a little customization, 3 horizontal lines in the lower right-hand corner. And then you just want to click on dynamic input. As long as we're here, add your coordinates. I always think that's nice to have. Okay. And then I'm trying to think if there's any others that I can think of. I think we're okay with everything else. Okay. So I'm going to click on the outside here. Also make sure that your object snaps, running object snaps, are here. And then as we look at that arrow down, I'm going to click on that. Running object snaps, anything that I have clicked here is always active. So you have a list of them. The ones that I tend to kind of gravitate to have available all the time that automatically come up are going to be endpoint, center, intersection, and extension. Okay, those are my kind of favorites, if you would. Actually, I don't like extension. I like tangent. Quit that tangent. And these can change over time. This is personal preference. You might say, well, why don't I just put them all on so that they're all there? Well, then that gets really annoying because it tends to jump to those things. Once you get close, for instance, to the edge of a circle, it jumps to the center, or you get close to the edge of a line, it's going to jump to its endpoint. So depending on what you're doing, you may want to turn this on and off. So when it's highlighted, these object snaps are automatically activated, and it's looking for those all the time. I'm going to click out of there. I can always turn those off, so I have no object snaps on. Okay. So I tend to leave them on unless they get annoying and I need to turn them off. But then I have my object snaps over here to override, remember. That's why I pull those out. I think that's it for right now. So we should be okay. Those are the things that I can think of that we want our environment wise to be all set. Okay. So as we turn the page here in our book, at the beginning here, we're not doing any particular part. So it's not tutorial-ish, if you would. We're going to be doing a gasket in a little bit, but it's going to just introduce us to some capabilities of AutoCAD and how it can work to make construction. So we're going to go through a number of these items. I don't know that I'm going to do it step by step, but I'm going to do it and mimic what they want us to do. So, so let me go back to AutoCAD. All right, so the first part here, we want to bisect the line. We want to bisect a line or an arc. So to do that, we are going to first start with a 3-point arc. It should be the very top one when you come in, but if not, remember with that little arrow, you've got a ton of options underneath here to create an arc. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to pick the 3-point arc. And again, it should be the one that's there. And now what it's going to look for. Now, remember, whenever we go into a command, AutoCAD, and this is the order you want to do a command, the right way, or the best way. I'm not going to say the right way. The best way is to tell AutoCAD what you want it to do. So we're going to click something up on our ribbon. And then when we get our cursor down into our drawing area, it's going to start asking us questions, like prompting us for what it wants to in order to do what we asked it to do. So it's saying specify the first point or arc. Now, as we know, we can do that in a number of ways. We can add coordinates. So if we wanted to start it at 0, 0, we could do that. We could simply left click to place it. Okay. We could maybe add it to another entity. I don't have any other entities on here. So it just depends on what we have going on and what order we're in. But I'm going to add my arc here, and I'm going to do it very simplistically. I'm going to left click 3 points on my screen. Okay. And you'll see what happens. So I'm going to specify my start point by left clicking. Now it's the second point. I'm going to left click again. And notice it starts to create an arc, but it's not done because I need a third point. And now I'm just going to go over here. I'm going to do a left click with my third point there. And now you'll notice that the command ended. Sometimes the command doesn't automatically go up because you can continue on. For instance, if I'm done with a line, like I've done an endpoint, the line will continue to let me go. It's kind of like that. We call it a rubber band, and it continues to want to do it. And I don't want to start another command until I'm completely done with the previous one. So what I tend to do, just to be sure, now it's not asking me for any other information. It's always a good idea to hit the enter or the escape key to just know that I'm no longer in a command, because you don't want to start another command if you're in a command, and the clue that you're already in one. So for instance, if I'm going to do this on the side, this isn't part of the example. I'm going to do the line command. Okay. And I'm done with my line. And notice now it's not done though, because it's like asking me for more information. But sometimes students, especially early on, they're like, okay, now I want to draw a circle. So you go up to the circle. It's always good practice. Now, it may work sometimes, but other times you'll be like, why is this acting funny? Sometimes some commands aren't good when you try to start it when another command is still trying to finish. Okay, so before I start another command, I always want to make sure I'm clear. So that means that my command line is clear. I don't have anything around my cursor. And then I start the next command like fresh. Okay, so it's just, again, that's good practice. I'm going to erase that. So now I'm going to add my line at the bottom to close this arc. So line. Now, because I have my running object snaps to endpoint, it's activating at that endpoint. And now, good construction wise, and this is what I'm going to be looking for in your assignment this week particularly, that you are using these object snaps, because it's really important. First and foremost, our geometry is not always just used for a drawing. It's not always just going to be a picture for somebody to follow the numbers and make that part, okay? It can be used, my profile that I'm creating here can be put into or used by, for instance, a laser cutter that's going to go around the perimeter. And if that's the case, the geometry that I create, if it is not a continuous like path that meets cleanly at corners and has like the radiuses trimmed properly, and if there's overlaps or they're not meeting, it can't read that toolpath. Now, either you have to go back in and correct those things, or the person that is running the machine has to correct it. So that's time spent when if you have good geometry to start off with, you don't have to redo things. Okay. So in this particular chapter, we're practicing using our object snaps, making sure we've got good geometry. And that's why I want to see the files, because if I don't put my object snaps on, for instance, again, I'm kind of still I can be like, oh, I'm nice and close. I'm going to put it right there. And it looks good on my screen. And I'm going to go like, oh, and I'm going to go right there. Got it. And I'm going to hit escape, and it looks good as I, just appear, or I just like glance at it. And I can zoom in. I'm zooming in on this corner. Look at, it's not a good corner. This is what I'm going to be looking for on your drawings. Okay. And this is what I want you to pay close attention to in this chapter. Important stuff. Get in the habit of using your object snaps. So I'm going to zoom back out, and I would have to go in and I have to trim and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna undo that command. Okay. Oops. It's gonna zoom. It's gonna do all my zooms. Okay. Undo that command. Now I'm gonna go back into line, and I'm gonna turn my running object snaps back on. They are. And I'm gonna get close to the end, and I'm gonna wait to see, did it activate? It did. And once it's activated, now I can click, because it's gonna grab that endpoint. So I'm going to go to the endpoint there. I'm going to go over here, wait for my endpoint. Yep, it's there. And now when I zoom in, no matter how close I get, I've got good geometry. Sometimes it'll pixelate a little bit in and out, but notice I can't zoom without seeing a nice clean corner. Okay. So now I'm gonna zoom back out. So I'm gonna do Z enter, E enter for zoom extends. Z enter, E enter. So you don't have to use the menu. And then all you're gonna do is you're gonna use your roller to roll towards you to kind of zoom it out a couple clicks, and now I've got it back on my screen. Okay. So any questions about that so far? Okay. So this is where, like I said, lectures become important, because this is the stuff that I'm telling you that I'm going to be looking for. So when you hand in, I don't want you to be surprised with, oh, I thought we were just supposed to do our screenshots. Nope, for this unit, we're doing files. Or why are you being so picky on my geometry? Well, because, you know, we're practicing this stuff. We're emphasizing it in this particular chapter. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to add a line here. Okay, but I want the line to always be perpendicular to the line that I just created. Okay, I always want it to be perpendicular. So I'm going to start my line command here. And I'm going to start the, you know, just a random start of my line. And I want it to be perpendicular to this line right here. Okay, so you're just going to start your line. I want it to be perpendicular to that one. Now, right now it's grabbing its endpoint. Okay, because in my running object snaps, I do have an option for perpendicular, but I don't have it clicked right now. Okay, so now there's one of two ways that I can override this. We already know one. We can go over to our object snaps menu and find perpendicular. Where is it? Right here. Okay, right there it is on mine. So if you have it horizontal, it's going to be along there. Snap to perpendicular. But there's one other way that we can do it. I haven't talked about it yet, but it's the way that before we had ribbons and tools and stuff like that, I used to do, and they still have it. So another quick way to do it, if I don't want to run over, put my cursor all the way over there and come back, right where I'm at here, I can do shift, hold the shift, and right mouse button. And I get a flyout menu here. And you're going to notice everything down below this line, these are all your object snaps. There's actually one or two extra here. Okay, it's a more complete list. So what I'm gonna click on, and it acts just like my toolbar object snaps, meaning now this takes precedence over any of the running object snaps that I have set. And I'm gonna pick up perpendicular. Okay. And now when I go close to that line, do you see how the perpendicular symbol activates? And when it activates, even if I am not perfectly perpendicular, it'll make it perpendicular. And I'm going to click, and notice now it made that line perpendicular. So now this is how you can ensure without creating a line, rotating, making sure it's perpendicular. You can actually create it perpendicular to another item. All right. The next thing we want to do is we want to bisect this line. Bisecting the line means I want to cut it in half. I want to find the midpoint. Okay. And because this line extends from one side of that arc to the other, it's also going to bisect this arc as well. Okay. Meaning it's going to cut it in half. So I'm going to just get rid of my line here. So I'm going to go up to erase. I'm going to singly select this line. Now, something to know about, and I always forget to kind of mention this when we talk about erase. We know about, you know, singly selecting, so I can singly select this. But let's say you select out here and you hold and you go across. Do you see how this like goofy shape is being created? Anything inside of that shape, and this is when I click and I hold and then I release. Anything inside of that shape fully is going to erase. All right. And you've probably been noticing, how come I don't get a box and Kelly gets a box and I'm getting this thing? It's because to get the box, I have to click, not click, hold. Okay. It's a difference. So if I click and click, anything inside of there is selected fully. Okay. So notice that difference. So when you do a window, whether, you know, whatever window in AutoCAD, click makes the upper left hand, lower right hand corner or opposites, and it makes that box. If you click and hold, it's going to make that shape. All right. And it's harder to control the shape, I feel like. Okay. Then you really got to like keep doing it or something. So, or you can singly select. So I'm going to do the erase. I'm going to singly select, get rid of my line and hit enter. And now I'm going to start over. So now to find the midpoint of that line, which is also going to be the midpoint of the arc, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another line, but I want to start it this time at the midpoint. So I don't want to select anything out there. I want to start it at the midpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my object snaps because I know I don't have on my running object snaps midpoint checked. Okay. And that's okay. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to find where midpoint is. And you're going to notice, I believe it's the second one here. If you hover over, you'll see it. It's going to be the line with just a little like orange dot or orange square in the middle. So I want to click on that, snap to midpoint. Now I'm going to go over to my line here and I'm going to get close. Notice it activates this triangle, this green triangle. There's the midpoint. Now I'm not close to the midpoint, but it's already knowing that's where I want to start. So I'm just going to click when it's activated. And now here you go. I've got a a line that starts at the midpoint. So I'm just gonna randomly put my other point out there. Okay. Any questions? So fun. All right, let's do a move command. Let's move this line to the endpoint. Okay, so I already have it drawn. I just want to move that line to the endpoint of my arc. So you'll notice that I have a move command. So I'm going to click on the move command. And now here, always remember, start with looking at your command line, and it says select the objects. That means what objects do you want to move? So I'm going to singly select my one line that I just created. And then I can continue to add objects, okay? But I just want this one. So once I have them all selected, I just hit enter to say, I'm done. Now it asks me for the next prompt. It says specify your base point. Base point is where I'm moving from. Like, where on that part do you want to have as your base point? I am going to select the endpoint of that line. So I'm going to create that. Now, notice that it now is like on the end of my cursor. And now it's like, okay, where do you want to move it to? You could key in coordinates here if you wanted to, but I'm going to move it to the endpoint of this line. Okay. And notice that's what I did. I moved that feature, that line, to another place. Okay. It did not leave behind a copy. If I want to copy, notice I have a copy function. So if I go to copy, click on that. Now, before I go into copy, just so you know, I don't have anything by my command line. I don't have anything, prompting me for something. I don't have anything by my cursor. And if you do, just hit the escape key to kind of clear it out before you start the next command. Now we're going to go to copy just below move here. I'm going to click on copy. It's going to say, select your objects. I'm going to reselect that same line. I'm going to click it. And now it says, keep selecting. I'm done. I only want that one. And it keeps track of how many it found. I'm going to hit enter. Now what it's going to ask me is, okay, identify your base point. So we'll do that again. I'm going to grab that endpoint of that line right there. Okay. And now it says specify your second point. Again, I could put in coordinates if I wanted to, but what I'm going to do is I want to copy it back to the midpoint here. But notice when I get close to the midpoint, it wants to go to the other endpoint because it's not activated in my object snap. So you're kind of probably like, well, come on, Kelly, get it. Why don't you put it in your object snaps? Because then it's there. That's fine. You can. If you notice you're doing something on a regular basis, just add it. Okay. You can just check it so it's there. But I'm going to show you again. We're going to do shift, hold the shift, right mouse button, and I'm going to go to the midpoint. Again, this is the override. It works just like my menu. I'm going to click it. And I'm going to again go to my midpoint. Now you'll notice that it says, okay, now where do you want to copy again? I can continue to copy as many places as I want. So I'm going to go to the endpoint. So I'm going to go back over to the endpoint down here, and I'm going to click when it activates that endpoint. And then now it says, okay, specify your next one. If you want to keep going, you can keep going. Okay. But I don't. So what do you think I do to get done with this? What is one of two things I can do? How can I stop this from occurring anymore? Like, okay, I'm done with this command. What do I do? I can hit escape. What's the other thing I can do? There's one other one. Enter ends the command as well. So hit enter and there you go. Or escape, either one. I hit escape. I don't know. I just tend to do that because escape ends a lot of stuff in a lot of programs. So it's kind of like there. Okay, so we moved a line, we copied a line, we're using object snaps to be sure that it's correctly placed, okay, at the right corners. And so if I zoom in here, these all come together. There's no oh no, that was a pixelation. So if you go back, there is not an overlap because as I get closer and closer, it's there. Sometimes depending on the graphics card, it might not catch up as you're doing it momentarily. Okay, so mine's good. So I'm going to go to zoom, enter, extents, enter, zoom, E, Z, and E. And I'm ready to go. Questions so far? How's that working for you if you're following along with me? Working okay? All right, cool. All right. I'm going to kind of go forward because we did some of these things already. Snap to endpoint. Oh, sometimes I'm gonna zoom out here. I'm going to move this over. I'm just panning, holding my roller down and pushing over. And I'm gonna put a line in place, just a random length of a line, and it doesn't have to be horizontal or vertical. But sometimes I want to take a feature like a line, and I want to break it into even segments. Okay, no matter how long that line is, I wanna have, you know, like 5 even segments along there. So the software can figure that out for me. So how we do that is it's going to be called the divide command. The divide command is going to be down underneath here on our draw command. You see how there's a down arrow there? There's additional commands down there. Okay, additional commands. And there is what we call the, forget if it's, yeah, it's this one. It's the divide command. So remember, you can hover over any one of these icons and it'll give you a description. And if you hold it long enough, it'll give you, you know, information on how to put this in. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this divide command. Now, you have to have your line created already in this case. Okay, you have to have the entity that you want to divide. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to select it. So I want to select the object to divide. There it is. Okay, and we can only do one at a time, so it's just going to be that one object. Now it wants to know, enter the number of segments. Okay, number of segments. So how many even segments do I want? I'm going to say 5. 5, enter. Okay, whatever your number would be. Now, doesn't look like anything really happened, but I don't have an error, so I didn't do anything wrong, I don't think. But what I'm going to do is we are going to go up to menu bar format. Okay, we're going to go up to menu bar. We're going to go to format, and we're going to find point style. Okay, point style. Now, the word point and node are the same thing in AutoCAD. So sometimes they're going to be referred to as nodes. Sometimes they're going to be referred to as points. So point style means how am I going to show the point when it's created in AutoCAD? And what we're going to do is we're going to pick one of these styles. Right now, its default is this really tiny little dot. So if we would notice that right now it's on the line. So being that tiny, it's there, but we don't see it. We want to see it. So we're going to make it bigger. We're going to pick one of these, for instance, that one, and we're going to say, okay. And now notice what happened. It identified those nodes. Now I see them there. So if you go up to format, point style, and you pick something other than what was the default was the upper left-hand corner here, and we go here, I'm going to say, okay. And now it appears. So now we can physically see them. The point hasn't changed. It's just that now they're obvious. Okay. Now, how can I use those? Well, if I want to, for instance, create lines that are going to be at those nodes, I can do that. So I'm just going to create a line. I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to select. I want to select that point. But notice, why is it going to my endpoint? Tell me why. Which kind? Remember what they're called? What are the ones? Is it the ones down here? What are these called? Running object snaps. Running object snaps. Running object snaps are the ones that we can set that they're always active. So yes, I do. So okay, I don't want that. I want to go to that point or that node instead. What can I do for it to ignore that endpoint call out? But I don't want to reset my running object snaps. I want my running object snaps to be there because they're handy. I want to just focus in on finding the node or the point. What would I do? Dang it. Maybe there's nothing. What was that? Nope. There's something on our menu that we can do. Huh? Sure, let's turn them off. Let's say, you know what? Object snaps, running object snaps, screw you. But now when I try to get close to that node, does it snap to it? So what can I do to snap to it? The bar on the side. Yes, the toolbar here. This is my object snaps toolbar. I'm going to find where node is or points. And I'm pretty sure it's called a node. Do you see it's like, I think it's the fourth one from the bottom in my case, snap to node. Okay, that's one way. There's another way we can do it. And I showed you earlier today. The other way is to do shift, hold your shift and right mouse button, click your right mouse button, and all of these also appear right there. So if you didn't want to go to the Object Snaps toolbar, you have it on your cursor as well. And I'm going to do it there, and I'm going to do the node. So again, point and node, same thing. Okay, node. And then now notice when I get close to it, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to click when it activates. Okay, and I'm going to hit escape because now I want to get out of that. I want to go, I want to now copy these to each one of the nodes like it is. So let's do the copy command. I'm going to click on my line, select the object. Again, I can continue to select, but if I just want that one, in this case I do, I'm just going to hit enter. And now I want to specify that base point, and I want it to be the end point, but dang it, it's not going to the end point. Now what do? So good. What do I do now? Crap. I could do shift, right click, absolutely. So I'm going to go shift, right click, and I'm going to grab the endpoint of that line. Okay. Now I want to copy it to the next node. Now what do? It's not grabbing it. Shift, right mouse button again, right? Let's go. So shift, hold the shift, right mouse button, go to node. There we go. Shift, right mouse button, node. Shift, right mouse button, node. There you go. If you got a million nodes to do, go over to the running object snaps and turn off everything else but nodes. Okay. And then turn on your running object snaps. And now it just focuses on nodes. But also know that if you do that, then every time you want to switch to a different entity, now you're going back and you're switching that anyway. You know what I mean? So running object snaps are there to be convenient. So that's why I don't do a lot of node work. So I probably wouldn't have that as my running object snaps. That's why endpoint, center, intersection, and tangent are like my go-tos in there. And I keep those going all the time. And when and if I need to override, I can use my object snaps toolbar or shift right mouse button. Okay. So know that that's available as well. All right. Good. All right. Let's look at some circle and tangency stuff. So before we do, let's get rid of everything on our screen. Yes. What do you mean? What do you mean? How did I do them? To divide the lines. So you have to have your line created, and you're going to go down to the draw menu right here, and the divide command is right there. Okay. And when you click on that, it's going to ask you to select an object, and then it's going to say how many segments do you want? And we divided into 5. Yep. So that's where that is. So it's down underneath here. The other place you can always go, if you're like, I know what I kind of want to do, but I'm not exactly sure where it is, or I don't know what the symbol is on the ribbon. You can always go up here to the draw menu. And now it gives you a whole list of all the things that are found somewhere in our ribbon. Okay. So you can always go in underneath there. So for instance, I should see, well, here's point. Oops, I just saw it. Whoops, point. And then under point is divide, because it's going to add points to a line evenly. So it's underneath there. Anything that has one of those little triangles next to it has like the flyouts where you have more options. Like for arc, there's a bunch, circle, how you can create those. And you'll notice that these are the exact same thing, but not in icon form. They're in menu form. Okay. All right. So let's get rid of everything on our screen. How are we going to do that? Tell me. You guys are like second week AutoCAD experts. Yeah, let's go up to erase. Yes. So there's erase, right? We can click on that button. There's a quick command for erase. The quick command for erase, if you wanted to use it on your keyboard, is E. E. Oopsie, am I activated here? There we go. E. And now you'll notice that anything starting with the E will populate here. But if you just wanted to use just E and you hit enter, you're in the erase command and you can select right now. Okay. And notice that down at your command line, it tells me I'm in the erase command, select objects. Okay. Or you'll notice that it does the very same thing. If I click on the erase button, notice that you see the very same thing down here. So E, enter, is also the erase command, the short keyboard stroke. So I am going to do a window around everything. So again, it's going to be a click and a click. Don't click and drag, otherwise you're going to get that thing. And then enter. I don't like how that thing works. I don't even know what's really called. It kind of is weird, isn't it? And it's hard to control. At least I think so. All right, now I'm clear. I'm good. So the next thing I want to do, I'm going to start and kind of skip over to, again, I'm not doing it exactly the way the book is doing, but it's better. No, we're hitting everything. We're just doing it a little bit out of order. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make some circles here, but we're going to do it a couple different ways. So we're going to set this up and we're going to make some lines. Okay. And you're going to kind of see it in that open triangle type of a configuration. So I'm going to go back to AutoCAD and I'm going to start there. I'm going to create a line and I'm going to make kind of that open triangle look that they have. Hit escape at the end to end that command. Now I want to create a circle and I want my circle to go through those 3 points. First at the end, middle, and then the other end. So I'm going to go up to circle and by default, it's going to start with center radius, okay, which is a common way to put a circle in, but that means I have to have a center that I know that I want to actually activate. And I don't have one here, but I want my circle to go through those 3 points. Okay. So I'm going to arrow down and see. I do have a 3-point circle here and notice that the 3 points are on the circumference of that circle. So I'm going to click on that. And now it's going to ask me, specify your first point. So I'm going to go close to the end point here, activate it. There it is. That's one. Nothing's happening yet. I'm going to go close to that second point. Now it's starting. And then to end it, I just need that third point. And now I've got a circle that goes through those 3 endpoints of those 2 lines that I have. Okay. Good, good, good. We have done tangent, tangent, radius. That's under here. That is another popular one. It's worth repeating. So I'm going to go under circle, tangent, tangent, radius, since we've got the 2 lines. I'm going to click, and you'll notice I'll go close to that line. Because the command is specifically tangent, tangent, radius, even though I've got my running object snaps on, notice it overrides and it does tangent. Okay. So I'm going to go my tangent here, and then now I have to specify the radius. Okay. So if you're ever wondering, what does it want now? It was supposed to do something. Read your command line. And I want my radius to be, I'll say 5. I don't know what's reasonable. Yeah, I guess it was good. Okay. If it's too large or too small, it'll give you an error and say, no, we can't do that. Okay. But we're good. All right. Tangent, tangent, radius. Another one is sometimes we want to make a line, and we have done this before, tangent to a circle or a radius. So I'm going to start the line command. I'm going to randomly start my line here, but I want it to be tangent to this. Now, if I happen to have the tangent running object snaps on, okay? So you may be seeing, if you have them set the same way I do, you may be seeing that tangent already appearing. If you're not, then you still have the option to go to your toolbar for tangent, and that tangent is right here. It's a line that is going to, like, you know, just touch the surface of a circle or a radius. But when you see that tangent symbol appear, it'll snap to it, even if you're not right on it, right? But it'll find that. And when I'm done, I'm going to hit escape or enter to get out of the line command. Another command that's really handy is called a fillet. A fillet essentially is a tangent radius. It actually is, if you construct it, but it's a shortcut. So I'm going to first create 2 lines, line here, and I'm just going to make them perpendicular. I'm going to have a sharp corner, but it can be whatever. It's just a random corner that I created. And I want to put a rounded edge in there. That's called a fillet. Okay, a fillet, if it's an external, a fillet is internal, external, it's going to be a, excuse me, it's going to be called a round, but they're essentially rounding off a corner. So down and to the left of our erase command, you're going to find the fillet command. It's right here. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to select my first, actually, before I select my first object, I need to set the radius, okay? The radius means like how large or small is that going to be in there? So to do that, you'll notice on the command line, if I click on radius right now or hit R, enter, you can do R because that's why the capital R, the blue R is there. I'm just going to click on it since I'm down here. I'm going to click on it. And you'll notice that it's going to tell me what the standard radius is. By default, when you come in, AutoCAD sets that radius on a fillet to be 0. So you have to specify it. Okay, it's not going to remember anything and it doesn't automatically put a value in. So if I click on the 2 lines, it's going to make a sharp corner for something. So if I want a sharp corner and I want to make sure that those edges are together, that's a way to do it. So if I have an overlap, for instance, or if I have them and they haven't quite gotten together and I need to fix it, putting a fillet with a radius 0 will make that sharp corner. Okay, but I want to actually put a round in there. So I'm going to enter a radius and I'm going to enter off my keyboard 0.125 and just hit enter. Now I'm still in the command. So it says, okay, select your first object. My first object is going to be one of the lines that I want to put this radius between. So I'm going to click this horizontal one, and then I'm going to click the second one as it's asking me. And now notice it's like, oh, it doesn't look like much because I guess I'm zoomed out pretty far. But if you go in, there it is. Yours might be larger or smaller, depending on how far you're in or out. But notice that it creates for me automatically, it's a tangent radius, but it's trimmed away the corners. So over here, if I wanted to create a fillet, I did tangent radius on this circle, I would have to trim away. We can use the trim command, which is our scissors. If I trim and I singly select this and that and get rid of this part, I've now created a fillet between those 2 lines as well. But it would take more clicks and construction to get that same fillet in. So a fillet is kind of like a shortcut for a tangent radius, and it does all the trimming for us as well. So that's going to be a command that we use pretty regularly. All right. So we're ready to actually do the gasket tutorial. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a zoom enter, extents enter, get everything on my screen, roller towards myself so I can see it. And I'm simply going to erase everything that's here. Enter. Okay. All right. So on page 321, this is our tutorial for this chapter. And again, it's here to kind of highlight some of the things that we've already done construction-wise, but also a good entry into the homework assignment. Okay. So it's a good idea to kind of keep this handy because this is going to be the drawing that we're going to be referencing dimension-wise and such. So this is a gasket. Okay. So a gasket is going to be a piece of material. It can be made out of a number of different things. Sometimes it's rubber, sometimes it's cork. And it's going to be put between 2 surfaces in order to minimize leaking of maybe a liquid substance that might be on one side or the other. Okay. So this is going to be the gasket. It's going to take the form normally of, whatever it's, trying to seal. So sometimes it's going to be on a cover of some sort, those types of things. So, so what we want to do is we want to create this. Now, we want to kind of devise a plan and look at where the dimensions are coming from to see if there's a 0, 0 that we can go off of. And there isn't necessarily a right or a wrong. So does anybody see a place where we would want to start? Here? Yeah, I kind of like that spot too. I like that spot too. Now, you'll notice that we have these radiuses here. We just talked about a command called the fillet command, and we're going to use those to put those in. But how we're going to construct it, initially is we are going to construct this so that we have a sharp corner, and then we're going to use the fillet command to, add those radiuses. Now, before you start clicking and going around and doing all the business, we're also going to be using the polyline. Okay, And I'll talk about that. And that's going to be one of the things that I'm going to look for as you're doing your assignments. There's some obvious places where polylines can come in handy, and I want you to practice using that. So I'm going to introduce that here and kind of give the reasons why that becomes a really good and efficient way to create this geometry. So what we're going to do first is we're going to start up in this upper left-hand corner. I think it's a great spot. And we're going to we're going to do 2 line segments initially. So whether you go in one direction or another, I'm going to go straight down. If you want to follow along with me, when I get over to AutoCAD, I'm going to go over to the right. I'm going to go straight down. I'm going to make a corner and make this sharp corner here. And then I'm going to go over to the left. Okay. And then I'm going to stop. Okay. Because I don't know how long this is or exactly where it's located. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start back up at that corner. And we're going to draw a straight line, kind of, randomly longer. I do want it to be a little bit longer, a horizontal line. After that, I have that construction in. I'm going to create this outside circle right here. And then I'm going to trim away that portion of that line or extend it, one of the two, depending on how long we make it. And then I'm going to start a line down at this endpoint and make it tangent to the outside. And then we're going to trim away the stuff that we don't need. Okay. And so we're going to create the outside of this first. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. And don't put any, don't do any fillets or anything like that. We will, we'll get to that. All right. So again, we're going to highlight the polyline command. So I want to be sure that we're using that. So whether you start your 0, 0 in that bottom left-hand corner, let me think. Do we want to do that? Yeah, I think I am going to start that because then it's going to be easy to place my circle later on. Okay. So I am going to start my 0, 0. I don't know if it's exactly there. Sometimes it moves around. So when I start my line command here, even though it's in that upper left-hand corner, I'm going to click my line command, go down into my drawing area, and I'm going to specify my base point as 0, 0. Enter. Okay. So it did grab that. And now, couple things. We want to make sure that ortho is on. Remember that ortho command down here? It's that 90 degrees. You can either click on it down there, or the other way to toggle it is to hit the F8 key. Okay. So as long as I'm down here, I'm going to click on it. Okay. And you'll notice that now I can only go vertical or horizontal. And as I look at this, that's all I want to do right now for the lines that I'm putting in place. So I'm going to go straight down. We started up in that upper left-hand corner. I'm just going to push my cursor down. I haven't clicked. And now I'm going to use this dynamic input. Does everybody have that input where I can key in a number right now? It's showing me like how far I've actually pushed my cursor. Okay. So I'm going to push this down. I'm just kind of watching the Zoom because I know I've got people on there. I want to be sure that nobody has any questions and they're seeing this. I'm going to push it down and I'm going to put it in for a 2-inch line. So 2, enter. Okay. So what it did was it made it exactly 2 inches for me. Now I'm going to go to the right. Now remember, I'm making a sharp corner here. I'm not making the radius. So to the right, notice that I'm going to be 1 inch in. Okay. 1, enter. Now I'm going to go straight down. Now this is not a direct dimension, right? So it's 4.5 and then 2. So that means from here down to the bottom is 2.5 inches, right? So I'm going to go back to AutoCAD. I'm going to continue on and push it down vertically. And I'm going to put 2.5 for that distance. Okay. Now I'm going to go over to the right. So how far is that corner? So let's figure that out. So from here to here, it's 7 inches, but I lost an inch. I'm right there, right? So that means from here to here, it is 6 inches. Okay. So now I'm going to go to the right and I'm going to do 6, enter. And this is where I need to stop because I don't have my circle up there to make a tangent. Okay. And that's okay. So I'm just going to hit escape or the enter key and I'm going to end that line command. Now this right now is kind of not in a great spot. So I'm going to pan it over and I'm going to roller away from myself to zoom in a little bit. If you need to do zoom extents and then roller it a little bit, feel free to do that. Okay, so now I'm going to restart my line command and I could either key in 0, 0, or because I started a line there before, if I get close, it activates the endpoint and I'm just going to click that. Okay. And now I'm going to randomly put, and I'm going to intentionally make it a little bit longer than I anticipate it to be. I'm going to go like like here-ish, okay? Now, if it's not long enough, it's okay. We've got 2 commands. We can do trim or extend. And then I'm just gonna hit escape, okay? So let's go back to our drawing. So we have created kind of this path on this side and then this horizontal line to a random length, okay? Now, I need to create this circle because then I'm gonna trim this line and then I can also add the line from there to be tangent up. So as I look at where my 0, 0 is, which was this corner, the coordinates for this circle are 7.5 to the right. So a positive 7.5 in the X. And do you see how it's 0 in the Y? Because it's in line with that 0 degrees, right? So this coordinate right here would be 7.5 comma 0, absolute, right? In regard to what we have already specified as our 0, 0. Agreed? Okay. So the center of that circle, we're going to key in that exact dimension or that location. So I'm going to go up. Now notice that the last circle that I used during this lecture was a tangent radius. I don't want that. So I'm going to use that little triangle down and I am going to do, this is giving me a radius of 1.5. So I'm going to use center radius. That means I have to specify my center. So when I get back down into my drawing area, it's asking me, specify your center point. I could left click if I wanted to, but that would not give me an exact dimension. So I am going to key in 7.5 comma 0. Remember my X first, my Y next, and because it's going to the right of my 0, it's a positive value. So here is my, oh my gosh, look at that, I'm close to the endpoint. There is my center. And now it's asking me, you're like, okay, now what do I do? Well, it says specify your radius, 1.5. We're going to key in that number. There we go. That's. The next thing we're going to do is before we trim away, because I want to do the trim all in one command at this time, I want to draw a line from this endpoint to be tangent to the outside of this circle. So I'm going to go back up, make sure you hit escape, you're not in anything. You're going to go back up to the line command. You're going to activate, if you have the running object snaps on, that endpoint is going to be grabbed. Now, I'm in ortho right now. And I want to be able to kind of preview the line. If I click right now, and I'll do it, all right? Notice that the tangent is activated. If I click, it's going to make a tangent, all right? But if you're like, I don't like the ortho on. Let me just undo this for a second. I don't like it on, and I'm noticing I have it on. I could do one of 2 things. I can turn it off by clicking on it down there, or if you hit the F8 key, that toggle, oopsie, it doesn't. Oh, because I have that on. That's why. Sorry, my F8 key's not working because I have another monitor that toggles between. So I'm going to go down. I gotta use the icon, and I can just simply turn that off. Okay. And then now I can get close. And if you have tangent as a running object snaps, it's there. If not, you can click it in your toolbar. If not, you can do shift right mouse button and tangent is there. So now there you go. And then you're going to hit escape or enter to finish that. This is so good. All right. Now we're going to trim away the parts that we don't need. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit because I'm going to get rid of this part of the line and this part of the circle, right? So let's do the trim command. Now, trim command, I could do the individuals like I have in the past. So I'm going to go to always the part that I want to get rid of. And it gives me a preview when I hover over. So I can click this and it'll get rid of it, click that. But another thing that trim does is if I do hit my left mouse button and I drag, I start to draw this line, okay? So anything that line crosses is also going to go away. So when I lift up here, those parts are away. So that's another way to do it. A little bit more efficient than a click, click. You kind of click and drag over the parts you want to get rid of. And that is consistent with some other softwares as well. So it's a nice adder. Once you're done, notice that my cursor is not back yet. What do I need to do to end this command? What was that? I could do right click and then I have to click on end command. What's a more efficient way? Like what's one thing that I can do? I can hit the escape key or hit the enter key like directly. Yes. Okay. So, and then I'm back to my cursor. So I know I'm not in a command. This is probably a great place to save because I always like to look, make sure that you're saving your files and you want to save at a point where you're like, yeah, I don't want to redo that. Okay. So I'm going to go up to File, save as, and then I'm going to navigate to where I want it to be. Now, if you don't have a jump drive along with you, that's okay. Make sure, again, starting next week going forward, let's always have a jump drive with us. And then you can navigate to where you want to save it. Now, I'm going to go to my OneDrive. I have mechanical design courses, and I've got tech drafting AutoCAD. And I'm just going to call this gasket underscore design. Okay. Now, I will tell you, when we save parts, for instance, in industry, and when we actually do some projects, we normally will save them as a number, okay, which is their like part number, which is also going to be their file number. In here, as we're practicing, we're giving them names, but know that in industry, and you know, we're going to have some projects where we're going to be assigning part numbers. The part number then is what becomes saved, not the part name. All right, so we're saved, we're good. So if we lose anything, we can always go back to that, right? Okay, so let's try to get ourselves caught up here. Okay, let's get ourselves caught up to where we are in our book. Okay, so we have done at the bottom of page, this is 330. We've gotten this in place and we trimmed away that portion. So now what we have is kind of this, okay? So what we're going to do is around this perimeter, we're going to add those radiuses on the outside, okay, on the outside. So the first one we have is going to be a radius of 1, and then we'll look back at the drawing. We've got a radius here, and I think 1 here as well in that corner. Actually, I'd rather look at the drawing itself. Okay, so we've got a radius of 1, a radius of 1/4 inch, and then this is a radius of 0.75, all on that outer perimeter that we just drew, okay? So let's add those using the fillet command. So I'm going to go up. Remember, our fillet command here is on the modify portion of our ribbon, and it's just below the scissors. I'm going to do the fillet command. Now, remember, we have to set the radius. So you always want to check what your radius is. And if I click on radius, or if I hit R, enter, down in my command line, it's going to remember the last radius that I put in, or the default if this is the first time that you're coming into AutoCAD, okay? So the last time we put it in when we were practicing using it, we put in 0.125, or I did, okay? So as I look, I want my radius to be 1. So that means that the number in there is not what I want. And all I need to do is simply put 1, enter to set that radius, okay? And then now it says select the objects, okay? So the objects that I want to put this fillet between is going to be this horizontal line and the circle. And you just hit click it. Now, before I click, notice I'm getting a view of what it's going to look like. So you don't click if you don't like it, but it looks like, yes, that's what I want. So I'm going to click it. And then now it ends the command. It's done. Notice there's nothing by my cursor. If I want to do this again, which I do, I'm going to hit the enter key. Okay. And what it does, the enter key will repeat the last command that I did. Okay. If you do right mouse button, it's going to have you click and see if you want to do it. But if you hit enter directly, it's going to repeat the last command. The other key on the keyboard that acts like an enter is in AutoCAD is the space bar, believe it or not. So space bar or enter. So I hit the enter key to get right back in here. You could just click fillet again and go back in. But again, when you're wanting to kind of be efficient and be smooth about it, kind of knowing some of these quick commands is helpful. So I'm back in the fillet command. And this time I want to put that radius of 1/4 inch in here. But the last one that I set was 1 inch. So I know that I have to go back to the radius. And right now it would do a 1 inch one. And I need to change that value to 0.25, enter. And now I'm going to select this line and that line. And now it puts it in for me. Ends the command. I've got one more fillet to put in. Press the space bar. It did it all. It acts like the enter key and it remembers the last command. Okay. So if you're putting a lot of lines in, if you're putting a lot of circles in, and it was the last one that you did, and you're just putting a new, radius in, or a new diameter, or a different length line, hit enter and it goes right back into that last command. It remembers that last one. I need to change my radius again. And this one needs to be 0.75, enter. And then I'm going to select the vertical, horizontal line, and I'm good. Okay. Let's save again. Now, because we already did a save as, we can simply hit the save and it's going to go and it's going to save where it needs to. All right. So now I'm going to do a demonstration. I don't want you to do anything of what I'm going to do. Okay. I'm going to look at this and you'll notice that everything here has the same offset. This gasket has a consistent thickness of a 1/2 inch all the way around. Do you see that? 1/2 inch all the way around. So you might be like, oh, I know a command. Do not do this. Watch what I'm doing. I can do the offset command, right? Remember, if I know what my distance is, I can offset something. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to offset, 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 offset. Let's see what happens. Don't do this. Oh, sorry. Okay. Offset. The offset command is down here. It's the second one below the erase. It's in the modify section. And the offset command is going to offset a line parallel to what it's drawn at a specified distance. So my specified distance, we need to specify that first, is going to be a 1/2 inch. So 0.5, enter. Now, I am going to select, bless you, this horizontal line. And when it selects it, now I need to specify which side of that line am I going to actually put my offset. So I can move my cursor up or down. I want it to be inside. So I'm going to select it, select that area, and all I do is click that area. Okay. Now it says, okay, you want to select something else if you want to use that same offset distance. It has to be the same 1/2 inch that I put in originally. If not, then I've got to exit the command, put a new offset distance in, and then offset. But all of these are the same. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to say, okay, this one, I'm going to go on into the inside. I'm going to go this one into the inside, this one into the inside, and so on. And you see how I click, click, click all the way around, and it's doing what I want it to do, right? That looks good. Looks really good. Okay. And then I have to go back in, and you'll notice I have to trim away the portions that I don't want. And I don't want those, and I don't want those. I don't want those, and I think that's it. Okay. Now, the offsets for the radiuses, you always want to check those. They look good because it was an even offset. So those are fine. So I would be good, right? I'm done. Not so bad. Don't do that. We're gonna be more efficient, right? We don't want to do 25 clicks to get this done. We want to do like 4. So let me show you the polyline command. I'm going to undo this. Okay. Undo, undo, undo. All right. Polyline command. We are going to take this entire perimeter on the outside. We're going to make it one entity. Notice how right now when I select, this is a separate line, this is a separate line, separate radius, they're all separate. And so when I did the offsets, it was only looking at that one entity and offsetting it, okay, and duplicating what was there. So I'm going to go down to the draw menu here, and we're going to find polyline. Forget which one it is. Spline, construction, array. Oh, I'm sorry. It's right next to the line. It's not in the down. I don't use it very often, but polyline is just to the right of line. I'm sorry. It's right there. So we're going to click on polyline. And it's going to say to us, select the start point. So, I mean, you might as well select on our 0, 0 here. Select there. And it says specify. Wait a second. I don't think it did the right thing. Polyline. Specify the start point. Hold on. Am I doing this wrong? Hold on. I'm so sorry. Really command. I did that. Converting to a polyline. Oh, I've got to do modify. That's right. If I want to start and create it as a polyline, then I start here. I have to go to modify. That's right. I'm so sorry. So we're going to go up to the top here, and we're going to go to the modify tab. Modify tab. If I was starting and I was creating an actual line that I wanted to continue and be all one segment, I do that command. When I have something created already and I want to convert it to, I am modifying it. So I go into modify, and then let's see where it is on here. It's modify and edit polyline. It's here. see it. Modify. Am I not seeing it? Modify on the ribbon. Edit polyline. It should be in here. The other place we can do it as an icon is here and edit polyline there. But we should, how come it's not, I don't know why it's not coming up on the menu. Hold on 1 second. I just want to see if I can find it because I thought that's where I usually do it. It's under object and then edit. Did you say that? I think I heard you say that. Wait, no, here's polyline. That's not edit polyline though. But maybe it is. Anyway. Yeah, it is. So either way, so you can go underneath and find it here, edit polyline, or you can do it through the menu. I knew it was in the menu. So we want to select here the polyline. Now it's not created in a polyline, but we want to select any one of the lines in our continuous edge here. And it says, do you want to turn this into one? We want to say yes. So notice that yes is the default. We're going to go yes. And then we're simply going to, it says enter the option. We want to join. We have all separate right now, and we want to join these together as one. And then you're just going to select the objects that you want to join. You could put a window around this. I'm doing it singly. It's not going to take a whole lot. There we go. And then once you have them all selected, you just hit enter. And that should be it. That should be it. And escape. And now if you hover over the top of it, it will have joined it. You can kind of see that now it's all one entity. Okay. As I hover over, it kind of selects it like that. Okay. So now that it's one, what is the advantage of this? I can now do, oops, I'm going to admit, Corinne. I can now do an offset, and it's going to offset that entire polyline to the inside without having to do any of the trimming and on any of the separate entities. So I'm going to go to offset, and we're going to select the offset distance 0.5. We're going to select what I want to offset this, and I'm going to go to the inside. And now notice that I don't have to go back and trim all of those entities. Okay. So that's what polyline will do. It'll join everything together, and then you can offset it. In this case, it's a nice way because we have an even cross section throughout the entire part. Now, let's say I've done this, but I want to modify it. And in order to modify it, like change a fillet or something, I have to go back to that original geometry. So I can do what we call explode. Okay. So that means if something is all one like this, I can explode it. And that explode function is right below the erase in the modify area. So I'm going to hit explode. And if I click on that outside anywhere, I select that, I hit enter. And now you'll notice when I hover over the top, it's back to separate lines. Now the inside one, I didn't explode even though it came off of there, but it's still a polyline. Okay. But the outside one is now all separate. Okay. And again, let's say I want to change something about that outside. And in order to do that, I needed separate entities again. So you can reverse that if you want to. Okay. So that is what I wanted to go over tutorial wise. You are assigned to do the tutorial. And so my expectation is that you're doing it with polylines. I'm going to be looking at those files. Remember, when you hand this in, you're going to give me the file now, not just the screenshot, because I want to see how you created this. I want to hover over and say and be like, oh, there you go. There's the polyline. There's not the polyline. Oh, you must have done that. And those are points off. I want you to practice the polyline. Okay. So I am going to stop the recording right now, and then I'll be back and we can look at the homework. We can kind of get started on some of those items. So I am going to click up here on more, and we're going to stop the recording.